Last year, I confronted Heizo Takenaka, the former Japanese finance minister, over why he handed over control of the Japanese financial system to a group of American and European oligarchs. He and his envoy told me that it was because Japan had been threatened by an earthquake machine. I did not believe it at the time. However, when I started exposing some of their doings, I was told by the Japanese security police that because of what I had said on places like Rents.com, that Niigata City was going to be hit by an earthquake. 2 days later, Japan's largest nuclear reactor was the exact epicenter of 2 earthquakes, both 6.8 in magnitude. And that was too much of a coincidence for me. So I started doing research and found out about HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. And I realized that they really did know how to make earthquakes. And they do it by shooting a 1 billion watt microwave into the ionosphere, which is the part of the atmosphere that has a lot of energy in it. That pushes the ionosphere up into outer space, and then it rebounds. And the way it rebounds can cause earthquakes. Just like an opera singer can break a glass by singing at a certain level, or by dragging your fingernails on a blackboard, you feel a weird sensation. If they adjust the vibration for the rock underneath their target site, they can do that. The same machine can also heat up subterranean water to cause earthquakes. And remember, a 1 billion watt microwave. What does microwave do to water? It heats it up. Now imagine if you put 1 billion watts into a tropical storm. You could make it much bigger, and you could change the direction it flows in. You know how there's high pressure zones and low pressure zones. Well, high is hot and low is cold. And the hot flows into the cold. And vice versa when there's more of the cold. So they can heat up an area and cause it to flow into a next door area. In other words, these people are capable of creating the cyclone that hit Myanmar, the tsunami that hit Indonesia, and the earthquake that hit China. Now, after the earthquakes hit Niigata, a member of the Inagawa crime family, which is based in around the U.S. Yokosuka Air Base, and members of the Inagawa family have told me that their big boss is George Bush Sr. In other words, they work for Skull and Bones. And they invited me to a so-called UFO gathering where they showed me the video of this blob. They told me it was a UFO, but it was obviously, to me anyway, a plasma weapon, or a ball of heat created by something like a 1 billion watt microwave. And I predicted in my blog that there would be videos of lights found above China before the earthquake. And those videos then appeared on the internet after I predicted they would. And furthermore, a Taiwanese satellite detected a 50% drop in the ionosphere, in the amount of electric energy in the ionosphere above the earthquake zone. Now, a 50% drop would be exactly what would happen with HAARP. It would push the ionosphere up, and then it would slam back down. So, it looks like the insane criminals who have taken over the U.S. government are killing people and threatening people with earthquake weapons. It doesn't look like it. I actually have some of the proof. And I want to ask the governments of China and Russia and Japan to reveal to the world everything they know about these weapons and the use by the American forces. I would also like to ask the loyal Americans and the patriotic Americans in the Air Force to please bomb the power generator of the HAARP stations in Greenland and Alaska so they can stop this mass murder. They've already killed 500,000 people. If we find out that the tsunami in Indonesia was caused by them, and there's a good chance because the earthquakes seem to be politically timed. They asked the Indonesian government to open the Straits of Malacca and to join in the fight against terrorism, and they refused. What happened? There was a tsunami, and suddenly they cooperated. In Myanmar, they were about to have an election, and immediately before the election it came. And guess what? Just conveniently, the U.S., British, and French navies are standing by with food supplies. It should take a couple of weeks to get there. What were they doing there already? And China had just succeeded in getting India to join with Russia and Brazil and other countries to join the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement or to cooperate with it. And Japan just had a very, very friendly summit meeting with China where the emperor met the Chinese leader 3 times. President Bush has not met the Japanese emperor in 8 years. Okay? So in other words, the United States is becoming isolated. And instead of being the policeman of the world, they have become the criminal of the world, the gangster of the world, the bully of the world. They have been taken over by madmen. And they have to be stopped. But we must not give them any excuse to convince the Western public to support a World War III. That's what they want, and they're not going to get it.
The blueprint for HARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. What does HARP do? HARP is a large antenna where we beam radio frequency energy up into the upper atmosphere, and we create on a small scale what the sun normally does.
The assignment came that the Navy and the Air Force were to manage the program.
Applications discussed in the patents included destroying missiles. Communications control and disruption were included. There were some other ideas, both to possibly modify weather and finally to lift a portion of the upper atmosphere further out into space where hopefully it would be able to deflect missile trajectories.
In 1983, I did radio tomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate, which is 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HARP uses 1 billion watts beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we say that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with 1 billion watts, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake.
HARP can create some of the effects that the sun creates that are similar to the aurora borealis.
HARP can paint designs in the sky, if you will. You know, it can take the beam and move it in any pattern that the scientist who's doing an experiment might want to do.
下皮思想的人能要抽吧？就光线里折射嘛，太阳折射，就是用彩折射的太阳光幕，应该就是。
This man contacted me shortly after my interview with Hazel Takenaka, and we met in a hotel room in Shinjuku, Tokyo. He told me he was a ninja, an assassin, a professional assassin from an ancient sect of assassins that specializes in killing prominent people. He told me I had a choice between joining their ranks and becoming the Ultraman of the United Nations, or being killed if I continue to expose what I knew. He also told me, when I asked, that there was a plan to reduce the world population to at least 2 billion through disease and starvation. The reason I have had his face blotted out is because once he heard the Asian secret society had arisen again, he changed sides and is now protecting me, and he has 3,500 people under him who are also now fighting for justice. That is why I do not expose him, but I have a tape recording of him threatening my life. I have emails of him threatening my life, and he had a Freemason ring as well as a special ninja ring which looked like the face of a devil with horns on it made of solid gold. And he told me he could put a little bit of drop of poison on each horn and just touch me and I would be dead. I have confirmed through other well-known ninja martial arts trainers that he is a genuine ninja, and these are very dangerous people. However, when they found out that SARS was a disease that had been artificially manufactured to kill Asians, they all stopped working for the Western secret societies and are now opposed to them. However, they are not anti-American. They've made it very clear they do not wish to fight the American army or the American people. They are only after the secret society that has poisoned American society. This footage was filmed by Alex Jones, one of America's leading truth seekers. He was able to get inside a super secret facility known as the Bohemian Grove, located outside of San Francisco. This is a place where very, very elite people gather for 2 weeks every summer, where they apparently have orgies and decide the future of much of the planet. He was able to film a ritual human sacrifice, an opening ceremony. Now, apparently they do not actually sacrifice somebody here, but these people are such that many believe they really do actually carry out human sacrifices. This is where Nixon and Reagan were both selected to be presidents before any election took place. Now, the problem with this film and what it reveals is that it shows there's a power structure outside of what we think of as democracy and the rule of law. And if you look at that picture, you can see they really do have some sort of evil agenda. And many people have become aware of their existence because of 9/11 and are fighting to overthrow them. This has become a worldwide revolution, and it is especially important that it succeed in the United States to free the American people from the grip of this secret society. This is just one of their many gathering places around the world, and this is just one faction of many factions within this secret world government. The nature of these people, we have now found out, is that they belong to an ancient religious sect. They can be known as Satanists. Sometimes they're called Sabbateans. They believe that there is no God and that they are God. They have the power to decide how humanity will live. They are a group of interbred families of the old aristocracy of Europe and the financial aristocracy. And they have been treating us and hurting us as if we were sheep. And they have plans, and they told me this directly when they invited me to join their ranks, that they wanted to reduce the world population to 2 billion using disease and using warfare and starvation. These are the people who carried out the attacks of 9/11. These are the people who are trying to fool us with their so-called war on terror and this so-called use of CO2 for global warming. And these people are finished. They are very close to losing power forever. It'll be a wonderful thing. They've controlled Western Europe and for 300 years. They've controlled North America for 100 years. And they are about to lose power. This is what the fight is about. This is why the people of the world are uniting, because we cannot have mass slaughter again. We cannot have a repeat of the 20th century full of horrific wars and mass slaughters. These people must be shown the light and stopped.
New World Order. Billions of people on planet Earth are living in ignorance. Before your very eyes, politicians are advancing a global plan. Since the time of Napoleon, secret societies have been influencing politicians to take over and conquer Europe. Now, in the 21st century, their work of ages is coming to fruition. The New World Order is about the centralization of power. It's about silencing any public criticism of the system. It's about commercializing and selling everything as a product. It's about letting China torture students and still allowing them to host the Olympics. It's about closing down government-owned schools and hospitals, turning them into apartments, and then letting private companies make profits from teaching your children or selling you drugs. The secret societies and political organizations running the New World Order use various symbols and numbers. Once you learn their secret language, you too will have the all-seeing eye.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Fulford, and I'm here to talk to you about the secret government of the United States and why it is the world's largest problem. My involvement with the secret government started this spring when I interviewed Japanese Finance Minister Heizo Takenaka, or former Finance Minister Heizo Takenaka.
Dragon's Den.
I confronted him with evidence that he had sold out the Japanese financial system to a group of financial companies controlled by David Rockefeller and the Rothschilds. The very next day, I got an email from someone who said he was introduced by Mr. Takenaka and he wanted to meet somebody. The person I met gave me this Freemason badge, and he said to me that he was a professional assassin and that I could either stop exposing people, he said I could either continue exposing people and die at the age of 46, or I could become basically Finance Minister of Japan. Now I have all this proof on tape and video. This is apparently what happens to a lot of people on this planet. They get to a certain level and they're told either you join us or you die. And most of them join them, and that way they get the elite in their pocket. And that's the secret of their control. In my case, I would have probably had to do that too. Although, once I realized I had met an honest, genuine, high-level Freemason who told me there were 13 levels of Freemason above the 33rd degree, and that these people were God. There was no God, they were God. So I asked them about their plans to kill people, and they said, yes, there are too many people on the planet. We need to get rid of of several billion. And war doesn't seem to work, so we're going to use disease and starvation. Now, I don't know about you, but I couldn't live with something like that. And my first thought was I'll have to pretend to join them and try to, throw them over from the inside. And I suspect a lot of the people inside those groups have the same feeling. They hate being there, but they're scared. But they'd love it if these guys were overthrown. So you got to remember, not everybody in the secret government is evil. In fact, I'd be willing to bet a majority actually want to do good things for the planet, but they're scared. In my case, the very next day after I got this threat and offer of a bribe from the ninja, well, the guy who described himself as a ninja, a Chinese secret society contacted me. It's actually an Asian secret society. It's not Chinese. It's Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese. It's all of Asia. And they offered me protection. Now, this is their booklet. One of them. This is the booklet of the other. Now, people who know will know this is real. They have 6 million members. More, actually. Including 1.8 million gangsters and a lot of very intellectual people. They can mobilize all public opinion in Asia. So, with their protection, I continued exposing David Rockefeller. And earlier this year, I issued an ultimatum on rents.com. The answer to the ultimatum was that the self-described assassin told me there would be an earthquake in Niigata Prefecture, Japan. And 2 days later, there were, on 2 consecutive days, earthquakes right on top of Japan's largest nuclear power plant. And I'll try to present this to people in the future. There was video taken of a ball of plasma in the atmosphere above Niigata on that day. So his answer was to hit a nuclear power plant with an earthquake machine and kill innocent people. Now I said, why on earth would I not then retaliate? Well, that would be playing into his strong hand now, wouldn't it? He controls a lot of violence, a lot of instruments of death. The people who are behind him, these Sabbatean sect of Satanists, would love to trigger World War III. And I'm not going to give them that excuse. So instead, the Chinese societies and the Asian countries, you may have noticed, have started dumping dollars, big time. And they've stopped going to G8 meetings in Davos. And you'll also notice that their submarines, Chinese submarines, have popped up right behind U.S. aircraft carriers in the middle of military exercises. What that means is that every single U.S. aircraft carrier is a useless sitting duck. The entire U.S. Navy is useless, okay? That's a fact. Secondly, all their satellites are useless, okay? And that's just the beginning. The screws will get tighter and tighter. The United States economy depends on Asian money. They need to borrow $850 billion a year just to keep going. And the Asians are tired of paying for a country that does nothing but attack people and create excuses for war. A lot of people are wondering why a picture of me smiling beside David Rockefeller appeared on the internet. And they're saying, how did I get to meet him? Well, he was here in Japan on what was supposed to be a top secret visit. However, if he's in Japan, he's on my turf. And it was pretty naive of him to think I wouldn't know he was here and I wouldn't know where he was. Friendly conversation is always the best. Now, the interview may be a little bit disappointing in the sense that a guy like that is not going to go and just tell you, oh yes, I'm head of the secret government and I sacrifice children and I'm planning, to turn everybody into sheep. It's just not going to happen. You have to look for subtle signals. It's the rules of the game. I was a corporate journalist for 20 years. And I know that if you just ask those questions, they'll shut down the interview, you get nowhere. So if I said, why did you spread HIV and why did you create SARS? He would say to his bodyguard, get this Fruit Loop out of the room. That's how it works. So I had to operate within his matrix. And I hate going there. I hate that place. But I had to pretend I was a friendly journalist. And I had to sneak in the stuff I wanted to ask because, unfortunately, it would have been great if he could really hit him with this stuff, but it wasn't that circumstance. He was accompanied by the president or chairman of a fancy PR company and a guy who looked like a heavy-duty Mossad type who could probably kill me in 3 seconds if it ever came to that. I came with a cameraman and myself. And now, you may wonder, when you look at this interview, why I was not more aggressive. The reason is simple. Years of experience have taught me that you get nowhere with an aggressive interview. I would only get lies, and here's evasions and spiel, and the interview would be cut short. What I've learned over the years is that you got to appear like their friend when you interview them, or you're not going to get good information. So I'm now going to show you the segments of this interview, and then I'm going to deconstruct them for you, so that you can know what I think this man is really saying. People are worried about the situation with Iran and some kind of wider conflict emerging from that. What do you think is going to happen there? What's your view about the tensions between Iran and the United States right now?
Well, I think the first thing is that Iran itself is a problem, but its relationship with its neighbors, probably from the point of view of the United States, is the thing that we would be most concerned about, because there are such different points of view in the area, and the possibilities of conflict between the nations within the area is certainly what is of concern to our country.
Oh, okay. Now, here in Asia, people say that the current structure of world institutions is not fair. They say that European peoples account for 17% of the world population and 40% of GDP, but they control 4 out of the 5 permanent Security Council seats. Asians are 65% of the world population and 40% of GDP, so they think some sort of better representation is needed. What is your view about this?
I think it's an issue that understandably and legitimately is raised by the nations with a smaller percentage. When the United Nations was created back right after World War II, the world situation was a totally different one, and the influence of different powers was very different. Therefore, I think that it is understandable that those nations with large populations that feel they're underrepresented have a point, and that this should be addressed. I don't think it's something that, to me, is immediately a serious problem, but I do think that it's something that should be taken up in the United Nations, and that over time some redistribution of voting power within the United Nations structure seems likely and probably appropriate.
Now, he's saying Iran is causing trouble with its neighbors, and I'm not aware of any such evidence, okay? It sounds to me like he's just trying to find an excuse to attack Iran. Now, on the United Nations thing, well, basically saying, someday, but not now. And his whole attitude is like, it's really his decision. And it's not. Okay? The Asians are tired of waiting. They're not going to wait another forever. Time has run out. This is what the Asian Secret Society is telling me, is that enough is enough. We live on the same planet. We both get rights to decide how it's run. They're tired of European domination of the planet. They want to share stewardship of the planet. Candidate Ron Paul, who's talking about bringing the powers of the Federal Reserve back to the U.S. government, under the presidential control or control of Congress.
I haven't read about that. Is that an issue?
Well, he's one of the Republican.
He's a Republican candidate, and that's what he's publicly calling for. So,
I would not look upon that as one of the great issues that needs to be addressed at this time.
When you ask about Ron Paul, you got to look at his face and see, the look, right? It's like, what? And it's like, is this true? Like, why haven't you dealt with this? And what's wrong now with the way it's running, the U.S. government? I mean,
you mean wrong with our country, or?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that is needed is the fact that I don't think enough people in high positions in our country accept the importance of our world role with sufficient gravity. I mean, in other words, I think the tendency, because of politics and getting elected, is to stress local issues, and of course they are important, but I would like to see more of the leaders of our country spend more time in traveling, for one thing, getting to know the world, and studying history. To me, one of the sad things about our country is that our leadership, to a greater extent than I would like, is more concerned about very domestic issues than they are about our relations in the world.
You're meeting the Emperor, is that correct?
I'm looking forward to that.
What will you be talking about?
That will certainly, to a large extent, be his decision. My impression is that emperors tend to lead conversations. I have had the good fortune and privilege of meeting him a number of times before. I would hope we would have a chance to talk a little bit about his views of the world and how he feels our country is relating to Japan. But also, our family has had quite close relations with Japan for many years and with the royal family. So my suspicion and even hope is that we might also talk about those relationships in the past and where they might go in the future.
Japanese newspapers have talked about this weekend about an imminent fundamental change in U.S.-Japan security relations. Have you heard anything about this?
I don't think so, really. And it's not an issue that I would think the Emperor would want to discuss with me. I mean, I can't imagine that would be one of the things we talk about. I don't think it would be appropriate.
And your nephew, Jay, he studied in Japan, didn't he?
He spent 3 years here.
And do you have good relations with him? Some Japanese people are telling me that you've had some sort of fight, but again, I don't know.
No idea what they're talking about. We have very close, loving family relations.
The indirect method gets you much better results, okay? Now, why, you might ask yourself, does his family have close relations with the imperial family of Japan? What reason could there be for that? The emperor doesn't go around meeting anybody. In fact, he hardly meets anybody except very, very senior government officials. So he's basically there revealing that he is arriving as a secret representative of the secret government of the United States to talk with the secret government of Japan. So here you have it. This is where he's admitting what he's denying earlier. That's the only explanation I can think of. You know, emperors don't go around meeting retired bankers. And they don't go summoning them, especially during a crisis in U.S.-Japan security relations. Now, do they? So, you know, it doesn't make sense, except if you think of him as a secret ruler of the United States, and you think of the emperor as a secret ruler of Japan. That's the only reason why it makes sense for them to meet at this time. So everything you read in the newspapers about U.S.-Japan relations eventually is a result, I guess, of this secret meeting. So he was summoned because something has changed. The Japanese government is no longer following orders. And that's also because of the Asian Secret Society. Is that the Sabbatean atheists, Satanists, who are trying to artificially create the apocalypse, who are trying to recreate their old Babylonian empire, have been exposed. Their game is up. It's over. They're not going to accomplish it. They're not going to start World War III. They're lucky if they're going to stay alive. So I'm telling you, you members of the Council on Foreign Relations and Bilderberg and all those families, the Harrimans, the Schiffs, the Bushes, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Walkers, etc. You are just a bunch of old-fashioned aristocrats, and you've got armed peasants at your doorstep. I say this. Why are you murdering innocent women and children? You realize that you're going to be seen by history as the same as the Nazi generals who did not stand up to Hitler, and that you will face war crimes, trials, unless you do the right thing, which the American people want? And to you conspiracy people, I have a word to say to you guys too, okay? It's easy to criticize someone for spilling a glass of milk. It's much harder to put the milk back in the glass. So it's fine to criticize, and it's great, but you've got to spend a little bit more energy and time coming up with alternatives. If you want to really get the power, you have to come up with a better plan, not just criticize the plan that's going on now. However, basically I salute you, but you American people need to shake off that horrendous leadership that has sneakily inserted itself above you over the past 100 years. Remember that. They killed Kennedy, they killed Martin Luther King, and they're trying to kill you. But if you do have to fight them, do not fight hired guards who have families to support. That's a waste of time and you'll lose. Concentrate on assassinating those top people. Do not waste your time with hired thugs. But hopefully, and most wisely of all, is peaceful protest. Soft power is the strongest of all. That's the essence of Oriental wisdom. A group of inbred gangsters who have been plotting to create a worldwide fascist government and a 1,000-year Reich. We have found out through our long researches and investigations and battles with these people that they are members of an ancient cult of sun worshippers. They call their god Lucifer, the sun god, but they also admit to worshiping Satan and the devil. This is hard to believe, but it's true. And we have obtained a recording of a conversation last week made by Peter Hans Kolvenbach, the former head of the Jesuits, in which he said He was the leader of the Satanists cult. He was the Luciferian representative on Earth. He made threats to sink the island of Japan to the bottom of the ocean. He also said he had a grave ready for me. Well, I have an answer to that. I have forgiveness ready for him. We wish these people to step aside peacefully so that humanity may finally live up to its full potential. We do not want to spend 90% of our savings on endless wars, and we do not want to leave our futures in the hands of a few inbred fascist monsters. We wish to be free as a species. We want to end poverty. We want to stop environmental destruction. We want to live up to our full potential. There's no reason why we should have 1.1 billion hungry people. We've already wiped out 30% of the species on this planet. We can stop that immediately. These people are not competent to run the world's financial system. They are concentrated in the Vatican Bank, at the BIS headquarters, and in other central banks. They have usurped the right to create money out of thin air without any legal right or precedent. The process of creating money should be a public utility. It should not be in the hands of fascist dictators operating in secret. It should be an open, public utility owned by everybody. That is who should control the world's financial system. The people of the planet Earth. Thank you. Fulford. I am a spokesperson for an organization known as the White Dragon Society. We are an international group of financiers, military men, people in intelligence agencies, and in secret organizations, as well as journalists and regular citizens who have been appalled and disgusted by the never-ending wars caused by the military-industrial complex. They have been using over 90% of humanity's savings in order to steal oil, pillage countries, and just cause mayhem. We decided that we needed to stop these people. If we could release all the money that was being taken by the military-industrial complex and use it for peaceful purposes, we could end poverty and stop environmental destruction within months. We could also then create an era of progress such as never been seen before by releasing all the technology that they have hoarded for themselves and for their secret groups. This would include, above everything, something known as free energy. It is the ability to create energy at almost zero cost. It would allow every one of us to live the life of a millionaire. If we release the free energy technology, we can turn Canada into a tropical paradise. We can increase the amount of fish in the ocean by 10 times. We can make the other planets inhabitable. We are just trying to free ourselves as a species from the control of this ancient cabal. They are a group of people who have been using assassination, bribery, war, and ridicule as their way of controlling society. And because they have been running out of money, they have become incredibly dangerous. They threatened to attack Japan with an earthquake weapon as a result of their impending bankruptcy. They said, if you do not give us money, we will sink Japan into the ocean. And a fleet of American ships and submarines was sent off the coast of northeast Japan, where they planted nuclear bombs in the bottom of the ocean and set them off in order to create a tsunami, a tidal wave, and cause destruction. Not only that, they also deliberately engineered accidents at various Japanese nuclear power plants in order to cover up the radiation coming from these bombs. This was not a natural tsunami. If it was, the waves would have reached Hawaii, they would have reached other islands, but no, it was targeted in a single direction. That cannot happen in nature. The leaders of this group are members of various organizations that you know of as the Bilderberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the various groups of knights. The top leaders of this warmongering group are George Bush Sr., Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, Jay Rockefeller, the Pope, and Prince Charles. There are many other members of this group, but we know where they are, we know who they are. We now have the backing of a large group of intelligence organizations. This includes Asian secret societies, including the Triads and the Yakuza. It means members of the CIA, the NSA, the Pentagon. We have people from MI6 and British security. We have cooperation from people within the KGB and FSB. We have cooperation from within the Japanese military establishment. We are growing in power worldwide, and we will no longer allow these criminals to act as if they cannot be prosecuted for anything. If you go into a country like Iraq and you murder more than 1 million people and you steal their oil, you are a criminal and you deserve to be tried in a court of law. You cannot get away with this behavior anymore. 2011, Tokyo, Japan. The oligarchs, the financial criminals who have been forcing us into unnecessary wars and causing trouble all over the planet are close to their final defeat. However, they are still extremely dangerous and very evil people. They have followed their attack on Japan with the earthquake weapon and the sabotage of the nuclear plants with a psychological campaign to spread fear and panic. Right now, the world is suffering from psychological radiation. It is caused by fear of radiation and not by actual radiation itself. I'm in Tokyo, right near the plant where the accident happened. I have my own personal Geiger counter, and it's recording normal background radiation. Please do not let them make you scared about things like that. They require fear. They feed on it. Do not be afraid. We are headed for world peace. They are running out of tricks. We are here today to make a special announcement. I am Benjamin Fulford, and I represent an alliance, a very powerful alliance based in the South, the East, and the West. People in the intelligence community and other people know that we are extraordinarily serious power, and we have been fighting a battle against the New World Order. And today we've come to an important agreement with the Illuminati, and we're making an announcement. Could you tell us about who you are and what you represent?
Yes, my name is Leo Lion-Zagami. I'm the Prince of Sant'Elia. I'm an Italian aristocrat connected to the Sacred Roman Empire. I am the Grand Master of the Ordo Illuminatorum Universalis, founded in the Principality of Monaco in 1999. And I'm here representing also the Academy of the Illuminati, which resides in Piazza di Spagna 35, and also the Italian Freemasons of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Piazza del Gesù, of the 33rd degree. So I'm here to start this dialogue, we hope positive, for the next and upcoming period, which is very important for mankind, in which we would like to finalize this exposure of the negative sides within the Illuminati that have been bringing us to the present stage in which we have this kind of very negative image on the internet of being the evil ones, by saying those negative factions have been finally isolated.
In the future, it will not be secret societies that run this planet without people knowing what's really going on. It has to be replaced by a new system.
Absolutely, and I think that this is an historical opportunity between the Illuminati, the real Illuminati of the West, and the real Illuminati of the East, to start this dialogue in the name of peace, tolerance, and truth. the moment in which we reveal certain truths, as painful as they might be, including in 9/11, we obviously create a kind of wave. But that wave can also become a positive wave of love, of understanding, the moment in which we finally say, okay, these people have done their wrongdoings, their wickedness, have been using and abusing their power, their position, and now it is time for a big change. It's time for these factions of the Illuminati, who are not so illuminated, because the moment in which Illuminati starts to really work only for the oppression of mankind, without wanting to bring that light from above, below, he is not really being an illuminated being.
Okay.
He's being a being of darkness, a being controlled by those materialistic, demonic forces from below. So they are Satanists. They are Satanists who have taken control of certain factions of the intelligence, of the military, and have brought us to where we are now. Why? Because they wanted to sell weapons, they wanted to make money with the sales of those weapons, invested within their own banks. All the system is cracking down now.
Yes,
Benjamin, as we know.
it's like Humpty Dumpty. There's no way they're going to be able to put it back together again. And their plans to kill 4 billion people have been stopped. They will not be able to carry them out. And some very powerful forces in the CIA, the U.S. alphabet soup agencies, the Pentagon, MI6, a lot of forces are now aligned against him. They are basically Nazis, and they believe in eugenics, and they believe certain races are superior and other races have to be killed. And most decent Westerners find such thinking.
We, as the Academy of the Illuminati, the Ordo Illuminatorum Universalis, and the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Piazza del Gesù in Italy, think is about time to work for a positive imprint in the New World Order, because we are going towards something that is new, something that is obviously has to be orderly, because we have order out of chaos, but it doesn't have to be the enslavement of the big brother of Orwellian proportions.
Okay. Now,
it can be something that brings us all together, those illuminating beings from the West, from the East.
I'm not in favor of what they call the New World Order.
No, but
I understand. That word has been associated too much with bad things. But what we're saying on our side is that we have to actually see concrete changes. We want to see the end of the fighting in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We want to see the end of the killing, and it has to be actions, not words. We will be expecting changes that anybody can understand and not just flowery talk.
Yes. People know from my personal history, which is surrounded by controversy, the fact that I have been within the Illuminati a reforming force, and at times very criticized and even threatened for taking this position within such an institution like the Illuminati in the West. But because I work now closely with those factions within the Catholic Church, within the Knights of Malta, and within other institutions that want to really make a positive change, let's try to finalize this dialogue in a positive way between me and you, Benjamin, today, so that the people start to understand that there is a dialogue at the upper level, and that actually being only confrontational, meaning if I sit like certain people in the so-called truth movement outside the Bilderberg meeting with a big megaphone shouting, cowards, that is not going to bring our society forward. Yeah. We actually have to change the society from within these institutions that obviously, if they have something that is corrupt, that is criminal, has to be eliminated.
It is clear for sure that now, the fact is we have to deal with the people who have been running the planet so far, and we have to ensure there's an orderly transition, and criticizing alone is not good enough. You have to come up with a better alternative.
I want to conclude this speech because I think that up until now all the interreligious, interfaith dialogue has been restricted to people that only face very superficial questions, on one of these kind of conferences where everybody has to feel good about themselves, about the fact that their religion is better than others, or their political party is better than others, or their military organization is better than others. Here, nobody wants to prevail on no one. We want to try to work together for a common understanding. If there is illuminated beings in the Shintoist, in the Buddhist, in the Christian, in the Muslim, in any tradition, they have to come together without prevail on each other. The rule is not to prevail on each other, because if we have to form a World Council of Religions who illuminates the masses below, a World Council of illuminated beings, nobody can prevail and say, I have the ultimate truth. The truth comes only from working together under a common denominator, which is love and the understanding of the great architect of the universe.
And the very important thing is the golden rule. Treat other people the way you want them to treat you, and extend that also to nature. That much we agree on. These are the core values. But at the end of the day, we have agreed that we want harmony on this planet and an end to the horrors.
Brotherly love, relief and truth. We need in society more Freemasonry that is real Freemasonry like it used to be, which brings men together under a common bond, that actually bring only elitarian forces to create lobbies of power which wants to only entangle this civilization in one war after the other to make
my only problem is we cannot have secrecy.
Absolutely. The secrecy, in fact, if you notice, in the last few years, regular Freemasonry, on the contrary of irregular or even Masonic lobbies that are paramasonic, like the Skull and Bones, which are not even Masonic, they are Illuminati, as you call them. The difference is this, that we are opening up to scrutiny, opening up our documentation, opening up our meetings, so that people can see us. Even the Illuminati in Italy, since 2002, since the 11th of July 2002, is not anymore a secret organization. It's an official organization registered by law with an office which can be found in Piazza di Spagna 35.
But anyway,
so we are going towards the people in a way that people can finally learn about who we are without the misconceptions, because the misconceptions and the dark side takes advantage of the misconceptions, and they will continue doing those negative rituals, those negative manipulation games within certain circles like the Bohemian Grove, if we let them do it.
No, they will be stopped.
They will be stopped.
And we in the alliance I represent expect to see action, not words. And we believe there will be very serious change that anybody on the planet will be able to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tenemos que meter en el cárcel a los líderes del grupo del Bilderberg, del grupo sionista en Washington y en Europa. Son criminales y mafiosos, no son verdaderos gobernadores de un país libre, de países libres. Son fascistas. Los países de Francia, Italia, Inglaterra, los Estados Unidos y Canadá ahora tienen gobiernos fascistas.
Now I'm going to say this in English. I have suffered numerous murder attempts. The people who tried to kill me include Henry Kissinger, George Bush Sr., David the Rothschild in Geneva, okay? And the people who are now at the source of the problems in the United States include Frank Carlucci, James Baker, Paul Wolfenson, George Soros, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Timothy Geithner, okay? These people are murderers and criminals. You need to arrest them. If they resist arrest, they are murderers. You must shoot them. You must not let these people be free. This is important. They are planning to start World War III and murder billions of people. David the Rothschild in Geneva, don't think you're safe in your castle there. You're not. We know where you are. We know who you are. And you have this serial child rapist Pope Malevolent the 16th. Well, he's going to be dead soon. And good riddance. Satan is waiting for you. There are a lot of these scumbags now who are on the run, and we've got to push. We've got to remove them from power.
They are preventing humanity from progressing. They've held back technical progress by at least 100 years, if not more. They are trying to murder 4 billion people. They are trying to start World War III right now in Iran and in Syria. And everybody says, gee, I don't know what to do. Come on, it's just a few old men. Why don't you Americans put them in jail? And I'm letting you know now, there's a threat against Japan. There's a ship right now drilling nuclear bombs into the seabed off the shore of Chiba. It's called the Chikyu Maru. And if Japan is attacked again with a nuclear tsunami, then I've heard that there's going to be retaliation. They're going to sink a large rock formation in the Canary Islands, which will cause a 300-foot tsunami to hit the east coast of the United States, including New York, Washington, and Miami. You must prevent such tragedy. You must arrest these criminals. We know who they are. J. Rockefeller, George Bush. Don't forget the gangsters in Chicago who control Obama. Don't forget Benjamin Netanyahu. And I have another thing I want to tell to the Jewish people. You are a God-fearing, good people ruled by Satan-worshipping gangsters, okay? The Israeli flag should have been the menorah. Instead, you have a satanic symbol, okay? That is a satanic symbol on your flag. That is not a Jewish symbol. Why isn't the menorah on the Israeli flag? I'll tell you why. Because the Rothschild family who created Israel worship Lucifer. They worship Satan. They don't worship Yahweh. They're not real Jews. Their real name is Bauer. They're using you. And you're making fools of yourself by going along with this insane plan. Hurry up and arrest those criminals who have taken over leadership of your society. This is not a joke. There's enough evidence out there for everybody to know it's true. It's all over there. Anybody who has done any research in the well-documented, thoroughly proven facts will know that a criminal gang has controlled your financial system for the past 300 years, and they are planning genocide, and they must be stopped. We will stop them. This is a declaration of war. You hear me, David Rothschild? Okay? You're not safe anymore. We're tired of your murderous games. I've heard that Evelyn the Rothschild, the family leader, is now quietly hiding in his castle in England. Well, Evelyn, tell your family to stand down. Tell them enough is enough. No genocide. Your family is in danger unless you stop this madness. Time is running out. I don't like to have an angry face just as we approach Christmas. It should be a time now. We have the possibility to have the richest possible boom in the history of civilization. We have the technology to turn the deserts green. We can refill the oceans with fish. We can have world peace. And all that's blocking us is a few dozen old men. Please, everybody, arrest them. What is wrong with you people? We can have world peace. We can have all these good things. We're just being blocked by a tiny group of old men who worship Satan. That's a fact. Please, we must save the planet. Thank you. No, enough. Look, final thing to say. This is not about getting the bad guys, okay? It never has been. But they're trying to get us. And at a certain point, after so many murder attempts, after so much harassment, telling everybody that ever knew that I'd gone insane, that I was taking drugs, going around and killing people I've known, and, they've murdered more people than anyone else in history. They're responsible for World War I. They're responsible for World War II. They're responsible for the Holocaust. They killed Kennedy. They killed Martin Luther King. They killed John Lennon. They killed Michael Jackson. Okay? They've murdered leaders all over the world. They are the worst type of gangster and criminal, and they have turned the United States into a banana republic, And they're trying to turn Europe into a fascist dictatorship. And all they have as their weapon is an illusion. Fake money that's not backed by anything real. We're cutting off their money, and we're going to put them in jail. They have to surrender. We can have world peace. We can have prosperity. We can have increased longevity. We can rid ourselves of this nightmare. It's just up to us. Everybody who's listening to this, do what you can. Remember, we outnumber them 1 billion to 1 or more. Certainly, even in the areas that are most infested, you outnumber them 100 to 1. Arrest the criminals you know who are closest to you, and we can save this planet. Thank you. Kim Jong-il was murdered last Saturday in a major power struggle that is taking place here in Asia. The Rothschild family is trying to replace him with Kim Jong-un, who's a playboy educated in Switzerland, who they hope will follow their orders in exchange for, beautiful women and fancy cars and other toys. But this is now a chance for the people in the Korean Peninsula to become independent once again. They have been artificially divided in order to be put under the control of forces in Europe. There is no need for the Korean people to be divided. United, they will be one of the strongest countries on earth. It is a chance for peace in the Korean Peninsula. And, of course, that will lead to a boom never seen before in this region of the earth. At the same time, the network of North Korean agents in Japan pretending to be Japanese is being dismantled. People are being arrested. Japan is going to be free from the control of foreign forces pretending to be Japanese. And this is a chance for the Japanese and Korean people, who are cousins, if not brothers, to have friendly and prosperous relations. Remember, the Rothschilds need war to control us. They need war to put us in debt. There's no need for humans to fight each other. We can have world peace. This is a chance. If a power struggle has begun, we must not give them the chance to once again put us under their control. Humanity can now free itself. The battle has begun. We must fight them on every front until there's world peace and there's an end to poverty and an end to environmental destruction. We can accomplish that within a matter of months once we get rid of this murderous, Satan-worshipping cabal. And it has started.
El problema que ahora tienen en el mar cerca de México es causado para el Golfo, es causado para el Papa, el hombre cargado de las financieras del Banco del Vaticano y del Papa es el señor Sutherland, y él también era el jefe de BP y de Goldman Sachs. Entonces, quiero decir que es un ataque orquestado para el Vaticano, porque la parte más arriba del Vaticano ya no son cristianos, son servientes del diablo. Eso es la verdad. Yo sé que parece una cosa muy extraña, pero yo fui al Vaticano, lo vi a la gente, y yo sé que ellos son mala gente, no son cristianos, y ese es el problema. La mayoría de los católicos no saben qué ha pasado ahí, pero después de Juan Pablo I ya no son cristianos ahí. Hay que purificar la iglesia. Eso es lo que tienen que hacer los latinos. Hay que forzar el Vaticano para volver a la palabra de Jesús Cristo. Gente del CIA y del MI6 británico y de la Yakuza de Japón me dijeron que el Papa mandó un grupo de 9 personas para matarme aquí en Tokio la semana pasada. Y hay otros grupos, muchos grupos que me avisaron y hemos tomado acción, y ahora han cancelado ese esfuerzo, pero ahora lo que están tratando de dar dinero a gente para que ellos puedan testificar que es un criminal, y eso no es la verdad. Pero eso es porque no quieren perder control del dinero. Es importante realizar que el control de las finanzas del mundo es el control del mundo, del futuro de la raza humana. Entonces, nosotros somos parte de un grupo que quiere coger el control del dinero del mundo y darle a la gente del mundo, no para un grupo secreto, escondido, que no tiene derecho de decidir nuestro futuro. Y ellos tienen que perder control del dólar y del euro, si no van a seguir con sus planes de matar a 4 billones de personas.
Esta gente son psicópatas, están locos.
Sí, porque nacen en un ambiente familiar que no es normal, es muy enfermo. Es algo que ha seguido para miles de años, entonces no son como gente normales, porque tienen un ambiente muy diferente desde la infancia. Creen que nosotros somos como animales para matar y comer como quieren. Piensan que ellos tienen derecho desde Dios a controlarnos como animales, y eso hay que terminar.
Ya tenemos ahorita a Bill Gates, quien está detrás de todas las vacunas para reducir la población en países latinoamericanos, anunciando en la cumbre de Bilderberg que tiene acceso ya a tecnología de modificación de clima. Platícanos de Bill Gates tantito, por favor.
Mira, yo sé que el padre de Bill Gates trabajó para la familia de Watson, que desde IBM. Y IBM es una compañía muy conocida para ser un nazi. Ellos usaron los computadores de IBM para numerar los judíos antes de matarlos. Y el padre, el señor Watson, dio el monopolio para sistemas de operación de computadoras a Bill Gates, porque él se casó con su hija. Entonces, él no es verdadero businessman. Él es nacido en una familia de alto nivel de satanismo. Entonces, parece que dice que quiere ayudar al mundo con sus vacinas y todo, pero eso es una mentira. Él quiere reducir la población del mundo y dejar un mundo solamente con una raza superior de nazis, de blancos, de gringos, pero no gringos normales, sino un grupo de familias.
Supremacistas.
Supremacistas y royalistas, y quiere matar la mayoría de gente del mundo y los restos, y esclavizar el mundo, matar a los que no quieren seguir sus órdenes y esclavizar los restos. Por eso hay que luchar en todas maneras, pero sobre todo hay que no darles dinero, porque ellos tienen muchas fuerzas armadas, entonces no hay que hacer una lucha física, pero sino de información y de financiera. Es un grupo de gerentes, de hombres, como 100 hombres o 200 personas, viejitos, sin poder. Entonces su único poder es la ilusión del dinero. Queremos usar el dinero de la gente del mundo para poner fin a la pobreza y la destrucción del ambiente. Ahora más que 90% del dinero del mundo se va para unas enormes fuerzas armadas que solamente matan a la gente y venden drogas, y no son gangsters que controlan el mundo.
Que pues Hugo Chávez ya está saliendo a la luz pública, pero ¿por qué estos líderes como Hugo Chávez, si ellos conocen la agenda y conocen estas sociedades secretas, por qué no las denuncian directamente?
Bueno, las denuncian, pero lo que pasa es que no le dan publicidad. Por ejemplo, Chávez se fue a las Naciones Unidas y dijo, todavía tiene el olor del diablo.
Porque la amenaza la tienen en su propia casa. El diablo está en casa, pues. El diablo, el propio diablo está en casa. Ayer vino el diablo aquí. En este mismo lugar huele a azufre todavía esta mesa donde me ha tocado hablar.
This is April 10th, 2011, Tokyo, Japan. This is Benjamin Fulford speaking. My fellow humans, the battle to liberate the planet Earth has entered a crucial phase. The oligarchs, the financial
criminals who have been forcing us into unnecessary wars and causing trouble all over the planet are close to their final defeat. However, they are still extremely dangerous and very evil people. They have followed their attack on Japan with the earthquake weapon and the sabotage of the nuclear plants with a psychological campaign to spread fear and panic. Right now, the world is suffering from psychological radiation. It is caused by fear of radiation and not by actual radiation itself. I'm in Tokyo, right near the plant where the accident happened. I have my own personal Geiger counter, and it's recording normal background radiation. Please do not let them make you scared about things like that. They require fear. They feed on it. Do not be afraid. We are headed for world peace. They are running out of tricks. They've been trying to use the Reagan-era Star Wars equipment now because we've closed down a lot of their HARP facilities. They're not going to be allowed to use them. They tried to set up a new global currency controlled by them. We did not let them use it. We are soon going to be in a position to release trillions of dollars to help end poverty, stop environmental destruction, end war, and set humanity free. Thank you. En este momento hemos encontrado que hay un grupo en el nivel más alto del Vaticano, controlando el Banco del Vaticano, que quieren hacer guerra, que son responsables. El jefe de su grupo es un señor Peter Hans Kolvenbach, el superior general anterior de la Sociedad de Jesús. Él nos ha dicho en sus propias palabras que no es cristiano, pero sino su Dios es Lucifer. Él es el jefe de los satanistas en el Vaticano y necesitamos la ayuda de toda la gente católica y cristiana para que esta gente no pueden hacer más daño a los seres humanos de la planeta. Ellos quieren matar mucha gente y nosotros estamos tratando de prevenir eso. Necesitamos ayuda de los cristianos y los católicos para que puedan hacer una gran purga de los satanistas dentro de la Iglesia Católica, para que pueda ser de otra vez una organización puramente cristiano. Gracias.
武道総本庁の総裁でいらっしゃいます聴導院大隠し、そして国際ジャーナリストおよび
まずですね、911っていうのは第二次世界大戦で世界ファシスト政府を作ろうとしたファシスト、グループがいましたね。ヒトラーなどムソリーニなど東条を含めてですね、そのグループがですね、第二次世界大戦以降は再び世界独裁ファシスト政府を作ることを企んでいたんですよ。で、911が彼らの、やらせなんですよ。で、その目的というのは、恐怖心を使ってアメリカで戒厳令、戦争体制を作るためだったんですよ。要するに911の次の日にですね、電話帳みんなつい愛国法という法案が出たんですけれども、これはナチスドイツの憲法とそっくり、アメリカがファシスト国家になりました。で、これを止めるためにですね、もしタイムマシンがあればですね、フロリダ州行って、フロリダの、選挙のその票を数える機械を修理すれば、アルゴアが、大統領になったんですよ。で、そうすると阻止できた。アルゴアはアルゴアでまた違うインチキグループなんですけれども、その温暖化グループはね、もうちょっと可愛いもんだったわけですよ。でも結局その選挙泥棒から始まって、アメリカがファシスト政府になったんですよ。で、この人たちがやろうとしていることは基本的にものすごい大失敗に終わったんですよ。狙いは、911を起こしてパールハーバーみたいな危機感をアメリカ国民に植え付けて、それを理由に軍事化をすると。で、それをやった。軍が10倍、5倍ぐらい拡大したわけです。その911の後。まず、私の方に内部告発者が出たんです。日本の警察にも出たんですけれども、 ロシアの潜水艦クルスクから盗まれた原発が、地球丸という船によってこう震源地の海底にこうの穴の中に入れられたんですよ。その証言した人たち大勢います。それから、3.11 の前にインサイダー取引みたいなものありました。日本ハウスとかそういうところの株上がってたんですよ。それから3月9日に大沢一郎が、アメリカの国務副長官のカート・キャンベルとの会話でこれから民主党を分裂させなければあなたに福島県の、ジオライト利権を差し上げますと。ジオライトというのは放射物質のために掃除するものなんですよ。他に、その地震の図あるんですよね。こういうやつ、それを見ると急に始まったわけ、爆弾みたいに、自然のやつ余震があるんですよ。そういうものから見ると専門家言えばこれ爆発以外にそういう地震ありえないと言うんです。